is up, boys and girls? It's your pal right here, Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael Lee Sanders, coming at you with another review for Lucha Underground for this November 5th, 2014. It's the second episode of Lucha Underground. Now, for those of you that's still relatively new to the promotion and you do not have access to it right now, you can't watch it, you've already tried going to the El Rey Network and all that, we're going to do our best to hook you guys up. All right, now for those of you that did check out Lucha Underground tonight, I definitely want to hear from you guys, get you all's reactions. So post those comments down below. You can also interact with us on Twitter at the RCWR Show or on our Facebook page at Infinity One Productions. That's Infinity with an E. Make sure you throw in the actual number one, Infinity One Productions, to infinity and beyond. Make sure you share this episode a number of ways. You can Facebook it, Google Plus it, retweet it. As always, it's one of the many ways you can spread the good word about our content. Now, with regards to the premiere episode of Lucha Underground, it looks as though with regards to viewership for the 18 to 39 demographics, they had garnered about 8,000 viewers. Take this with a grain of salt, but it looks like Dave Meltzer of the online Wrestler Observer Report, you know Dave Meltzer, he's reporting that it's estimated by what he was able to find out that Lucha Underground probably did about anywhere between 18,000 to 20,000 views total. Now, I know some of you guys that first heard about these numbers, you might have been a little bit alarmed, you might have been a little bit concerned, but definitely El Rey Network, they are committed to Lucha Underground. They have reassured the talent, everybody that's involved with the Lucha Underground promotion, that they are committed to this promotion for 39 episodes and that they have a lot of big plans laid out for these guys. So just take note of that, despite the news that some of you guys are hearing. And you know, this is one of those type of promotions where for a lot of us that have our respective cable satellite providers, the El Rey Network, it's part of a upper tier package, so you would have to upgrade your current plan in order to get it, depending on who exactly your cable slash satellite provider is. Now, I know in the new update, the network is available on DirecTV. It is available for folks that have Verizon Fios. I had heard from one of our own respected listeners that it's also available for Cox. So, you know, you just got to really go to the website over at El Rey Network, type in your zip code to try to figure out how you'd be able to catch it. As otherwise, if you don't have access to the El Rey Network, you can check it out Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on Una Mas, all right? Without any further ado, let's go on ahead on that note and let's jump right into it. Nothing else as far as Lucha Underground news. That's pretty much all we wanted to share with you all. So let's talk about tonight's episode instead, where things had kicked off with Cortez, Cisco, and the boss, Big Rick, explaining the beatdown that they had gave to Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma on last week's debut episode. Basically, Big Rick, he pretty much said he's the boss and that what they do, they do. They can do pretty much anything they want. They don't answer to anybody. They wanted to make their voices heard. They wanted to make an impact, and they made it in a huge way by beating down Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma. But wait a minute, folks, wait a minute. As all this talking was going on in the ring, and it was actually very brief, it wasn't no 15-minute promo. Each guy of that stable, they probably had talked for like about maybe 90 seconds tops. We saw Johnny Mundo. He came up from behind them. He started attacking them. Shortly after, we saw Prince Puma. He came in, tried to lend Johnny Mundo a hand. This would lead to Dario, the owner, creator of the Lucha Underground promotion, to come out and announce that there would be a tag team match, which had pit Cortez and Cisco against Puma and Johnny Mundo. Great, solid opener of a tag match. It was definitely high-paced, really, really great opener. Not as solid as it was on last week's debut episode where the main event was Puma taking on Mundo. But I tell you, it definitely set the tone for the rest of the night. Remember, I was telling you guys last week, hey, I wonder if they're going to be able to squeeze in more matches. Because when you look at Ring of Honor, they're able to squeeze in about 4, 5 matches. And there's a little tiny bit of storyline, typically none, but they slide in a little bit. I told you guys that with the episodes going forward beyond the pilot should tell a very interesting story on where exactly they're trying to go with Lucha Underground. We didn't see as much heavy story as compared to last week, which I thought was very refreshing. It was definitely a good thing. We actually saw the team of Johnny Mundo, Prince Puma picking up the victory. From there, we had saw a scene shortly afterwards, as we're kind of led to the impression that several minutes after this tag match went down, Conan was seen in a locker room talking with Puma, and he said to him, "Look, don't trust Johnny Mundo. Johnny Mundo is not your friend. Don't get involved in his business because it's only going to blow up in your face. There's only one person you can trust." And hey, man, you're looking right at him, as Conan was basically talking about himself. And Conan was seeking reassurance that he and Puma were on the same page. Puma acknowledged, gave him a head nod. From there, they proceeded to exit the ring. From there, we had got a little bit of a vignette, if you will, of Mil Muertes, aka 1,000 Deaths. We heard about him being plugged on last week's episode. Well, tonight he made his debut as he had took on Blue Demon Jr. in the main event match. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. For now, though, I definitely want to take this time out to thank those of you that's checking this out right now. Your host right here, Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders of the RCWR show, coming at you with a Lucha Underground review for this Wednesday night, November 5th, 2014. If it's your first time checking us out, I'd love to have you subscribe to us so you never miss out on all the great content that we do for you here on a weekly basis. We got a little bit of something for everybody, whether it's breaking news, kicking back, doing some very fun, insightful, laid-back interviews, or we're just kicking on back and doing a little something in between. We got a little bit of something for everybody. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and check us out. We also have great radio/podcast versions of our shows available on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, iTunes. You can find all the links in this episode description right down below. Let's continue on with the talk of Lucha Underground. I don't know about you guys, but for those of you that's been checking out the promotion so far, I think we can all be in agreement. A lot of good signs happening for this promotion. If I were to only find one gripe about the promotion that I'm not really kind of feeling, that I hope changes in the weeks to come, or hell, maybe it can be part of season 2, they got to do something with the atmosphere of the ring. I get they're trying to go for that whole dark and gritty type of look, but sometimes as I'm watching these matches play out, I feel as though it's happening in a rec center, or that it's maybe happening in a homeless shelter. And I'm not making fun of Lucha Underground in no shape or form. So those of you that are paying attention to those words that I just said, please don't misconstrue it. I mean very well. I want for this promotion to succeed. I love the talent that they have, just all the way around. Everything is very good about it, but it just kind of feels a little too low budget for me, you know what I'm saying? Especially when I see some of the names that's behind it. But that's just my wishful thinking. You all are more than welcome to post your comments down below and let me know what you think about that. Let's continue on now. We saw a mixed intergender tag team match, as we saw the one and only Son of Havoc team up with Ivelisse Velez. That's right, Ivelisse Velez, former guest of the RCWR show. As you all recall, We had chatted it up with her, I believe it was earlier this year. If you guys did not check it out, we'll have a link be available for you guys to check out. It was a really fun, laid back type of interview. We talked all things wrestling and beyond. It was really awesome. And it's great to see her loaning her services to Lucha Underground as Havoc, Eva Lee's teamed up to take on Chavo Guerrero, Sexy Star. Of course, you got a little bit of history there with Chavo, Sexy Star, as leave it up to the commentators, is what I was trying to say. Matt Striker and Vampiro. Great commentating as well. You know, they continued the trend from the debut episode. I can just listen to Vampiro and Matt Striker commentate for hours. It is a great pairing. It really feels so freaking natural with these two guys commentating. It feels as though these guys have been a team for some years now, just the way they're able to play off of one another. I really love it right there. They revealed in their commentating that Chavo has been training Sexy Star for many, many years now. And it's funny that they mentioned that because there was a really nice big send off to end Lucha Underground tonight. But, you know, I love how the commentators took little jabs at the high up wrestling promotions. They didn't mention them by names, but I'm sure you can figure out the promotions that they were talking about as they said, well, you know, in those other promotions, they don't let the women fight the men. No, 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 no. Tell you what, though, it's 2014. It's different. It's a new time. It's a new era. And I'm so feeling that. I mean, let's be for real. How many of us guys that's out there, and especially the females, all right, you're watching wrestling and everything, and you want for there to maybe one day, some of us might have dreamed this, who knows, but I know when I was looking at China, I used to always say, man, it would be badass if she was the first ever female world heavyweight champion. That would just be freaking badass. You know, I'm sure that a lot of us probably played around with those same ideas, and then whenever we picked up the new WWE video game that was out, just the fact that we were able to fight the men and it was for the belts and all that, it was good. Remember how the later games came about, though, where you could no longer have the females compete for the world heavyweight belts, not unless you had them be a gender in between, or you forced them to be a male but you gave them a female body and all that other silly crap. Then eventually you couldn't even do that, period. You would pretty much have to go in, hack your game if you wanted your females to be able to compete on the male side. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of us that have always just really relished in the idea of, hey, it's equal all across the boards. Let's see the women fight the men. What the hell, you know? If they want to get in the ring, they want to get physical, why deny them the right to take on males? You know, so it was really awesome to see this intergender tag match. As at one point, man, I mean, just the way Eva Lee's went in there and she was fighting Chavo, and you guys know how she has that whole MMA background and all that, which Striker and Vampiro played upon very well. She was beating the crap out of Chavo. I was loving it. She was giving him nice, good, strong, stiff kicks, all that good stuff. I was loving it, man. All said and done, though, Havoc, Eva Lee's Velez, they would lose to Chavo and Sexy Star. Backstage segment, probably, well, if you want to call it a backstage segment, I'm going ahead and call it a backstage segment because it kind of came off as if that's what it was. As we saw Blue Demon, he was stretching now, getting ready for his main event match against Mil Muertes, as we had saw the beautiful and the lovely Katrina come up to him and gave him a nice little delicious tongue in the ear and whispered some words in his ear, basically saying 1,000 deaths is coming, time to prepare or whatnot. Main event match we go. One thing that I thought was a little bit kind of a chuckle with this main event match, we see Blue Demon Jr., we see Mr. 1,000 Deaths, and so you're saying to yourself, well, who exactly is Blue Demon? Because they both were wearing some form of blue. So you kind of had to maybe go with the process of elimination, or maybe they mean the guy that's wearing the true blue colors and not the pastel type of blue. They got to be talking about the other guy, right? So I thought that was a little bit weird how they did that, because if you're just flipping through the channels and you land on it, unless you watch that pilot episode and you're like, okay, so when I see this guy come out, I know that's Blue Demon Jr. Okay, great, got it. But if you're watching this episode for the very first time and you see Blue Demon Jr. and you see 1,000 deaths, and they're both wearing blue, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, who's who? I wish they could have done a different wardrobe selection for Mr. 1000 Deaths. Speaking of Blue Demon Jr., there is one other piece of news we can share with you guys with regards to last week's pilot episode. Apparently, the match that Blue Demon Jr. had with Chavo Guerrero was heavily edited because it was described by many as being so bad. They had to continue to do false starts and spots kept getting messed up. They just had to keep reshooting that, to the point it was a little bit surprising for, I guess, the production crew people that was doing all the film editing to be able to have the little bit of footage that they were able to show us of that match from last week's debut episode. I'm curious to know how much did they edit of this episode. But with regards to the Blue Demon taking on the Mil Muertes, but I'll tell you what, we would have a proper finish with regards to this match, as we had saw Chavo Guerrero come from out of nowhere and he actually attacked Blue Demon. He just went belligerent on the man. Meanwhile, Katrina and Mil Muertes, they had quietly now made their exit, as we see Chavo Guerrero just continue to beat the holy crap out of Blue Demon. From there, we saw a couple of luchadors. They came in, they tried to stop Chavo. He managed to get a steel chair in hand by this point, and he just started going to work on them. Finally, his young protege, his pupil, Sexy Star, she came into the ring, questioning him, asking him what he was doing. And for a brief moment there, you see Chavo, he's kind of talking to her, kind of like, choose your sides carefully almost. And we see Sexy Star, she just continues to talk to him, try to talk him down, and she was actually about to go check on one of the guys that he hit with the chair, and wham, Chavo did the unthinkable, something we haven't seen in quite a long time, which is a male wrestler hit a female wrestler with a foreign object on television, and a foreign object as big and in the form of a steel chair. I mean, the fans ate it up big time. They actually were chanting to Chavo, Puto. You can't make that crap up. They were actually calling him Puto, and they were going, hey, Puto. It was great stuff right there, man. But we see Chavo Guerrero just standing there in the middle of the ring as some of the Lucha Underground wrestlers are laid out. EMTs are coming out with the stretchers and all that. Of course, the $1,000,000 question, why Chavo? Why? Of course, next week, I'm sure we'll probably get our answers, but just looking into the crystal ball a little bit, I would have to say that pep talk that Dario had with Chavo on that debut episode, remember what Dario said to him? He said, hey, you're supposed to be the legendary Guerrero family. You couldn't go in there and take care of Blue Demon. You lost. I'm disappointed in you. Hey, what do you think your grandfather would say? What do you think your uncle would say if they saw how you perform? If they saw you right now? I think that literally lit a fuse under Chavo Guerrero's ass, and he just went belligerent. Some of you guys may be looking at it and you may be crying inconsistency or whatever, but I think it makes perfect sense. And let's be for real, Chavo does heel so good, better than being a face as far as I'm concerned. I love it when he's just unchained, and he is just a badass, because when he's unchained and he can just go all balls out, he can produce some really, really good work. So with regards to this episode overall, I would definitely have to say They did very good. I love the fact that we had got more matches this go round. It extended pretty much by one, but it seemed like the way they balanced out the storylines this go round, they kept it kind of short, a little sweet, but very precise. And once again, I love how Lucha Underground, they continue to introduce us to new characters, but at the same time, they did it in a way where at the end your head just does not feel like it's so freaking swollen and you're like, okay, who is this, who is that. The commentators did a really good job in keeping the pace at a nice rate so that you can easily follow along. It really helped listening to them because they gave you great insight into the characters that you were seeing. And I tell you, man, if you haven't given Lucha Underground a chance yet, here's our challenge here from the RCWR show to you. Watch it. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. It's definitely a great alternative to some of the other things that's on television right now. As always, we welcome those of you that had checked out the episode tonight. Post those comments down below. Interact with us on Twitter at the RCWR Show, Facebook at Infinity One Productions, as we'll definitely follow up on you all's interactions on a future episode of the RCWR show. If not our radio edition, hey, we will definitely do it right back here next week when we review the next episode of Lucha Underground. Remember, make sure you give this piece a thumbs up. You can share this in a number of ways by Facebooking it, Google Plusing it, retweeting it. Always one of the best ways you can spread the good word about our content. We got great episodes for y'all to check out on the downloads. All the links you need is in the episode description. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for, man? Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss out. Until next go round, please be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. See you next go round, everybody. Take care. Adios.